I'm a university teacher, so I'm quite used to speaking in front of large audiences of medical students. But anyway, it's easier to speak through a microphone than just to shout. I was born in 1937, in 2 weeks of age. By the way, I was invited now to Rwanda to speak in front of the genocide that have been there, and they have a Memorial Day. So I will be celebrating my birthday actually in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and normally when I come back it will be a family celebration. So 1937, and when the war broke out in 1939, I was 2, but Lithuania was affected.
1939.
39. Did I say 49?
No, I said
29? I don't hear very well, so I don't hear what I'm speaking about. So 1939, the war broke out, but Lithuania was deeply affected in 1941 only when it was occupied by the Nazis. 1 year prior to that, it was occupied by the communist forces of Russia, USSR, under a severe communist regime. And in 1941, summer 1941, Lithuania was occupied, and then the killings started. Actually, they started in community with the Nazis and the Lithuanians themselves. In the end of a couple of months, about 80% of the Jewry in Lithuania was gone by mainly Lithuanians. So after the initial killings, and that actually took the most victims away, we were put into a ghetto. In August 1941, I was 4 years old. We were sent to a ghetto. We were told to leave our houses and take bare belongings with us, and we were sent into a ghetto and to very crowded conditions. The houses were run down, everything was run down. But also the purges didn't stop when we went into the ghetto. There were several purges, among them also a whole kindergarten of actually orphans, Jewish orphans, all were killed. Certain children that had relatives that took care of them were spared for the time being. So from 1941, after the initial purges in the ghetto, we were free to roam the ghetto until about mid-1943, when the command of the ghetto was transferred from the Wehrmacht, from the army, to the SS. And the regime, of course, changed very dramatically. And in November 1943, the Germans decided that the children were superfluous. They didn't produce anything, so up to the age of 13, they had to go. So this is a very fateful day, and this is the occurrence I'm going to tell all of you. Afterwards, of course, I have a presentation that I will detail many other things, but this occurrence was probably the most dramatic or fearsome, scary in my life. So 5th November 1943, the ghetto was surrounded by armored cars, trucks, German army people, German SS, Lithuanians collaborating, armed Lithuanians, and mainly Ukrainians who collaborated as well. They were brought there as auxiliary forces, and they did most of the dirty jobs that the Germans didn't want to do. And in came the Ukrainians, children. We children until that date were free to roam the streets. So there were many children in the early morning that were already in the streets, and it was very easy for the Ukrainians to catch them and throw them into trucks. But after a while, the relatives, the parents, got clever enough to understand what was going on and started to hide the children. But it all had come as a surprise, so no one had actually prepared any hideout in advance. So whatever it was all makeshift. Children were hidden in various corners of the houses, behind furniture, or whatever it was. Most of them were detected and caught and thrown into the trucks. Just at the end of the whole day, the trucks drove away to the train station, and the train station, the trains, as we know very well, in 1943 led to the extermination camps. We know, later on, came to our knowledge that the children had been driven to the gas chambers of Auschwitz. In my house, there were several rooms. Each family occupied a room, and in the kitchen, the kitchen during daytime served whatever service food, very little food, but it served its real purpose as a kitchen. But during nighttime, it served as a sleeping room for my aunt and female cousin Miriam. And on the floor of the kitchen, there was a door on hinges, a fall door, which led to a narrow cellar deep in the ground, about 2 meters, I think. Had a very small aeration opening, and it served for keeping potatoes from freezing in the winter. So the children in the house, up to the age of 13, most of us were 7, 8 years old. At that time in 43, 7, 8 years old, were stuffed on the floor inside the cellar, like perpendicular sardines, like a sardine can, but perpendicular. We're standing, very crowded, one pressed against the other. And we got warning that we had to keep quiet completely, because the people that were going around, we heard the shouts from outside, would be willing to catch and kill us. So the fear of God was driven into us, mainly by my mother. My mother and my aunt, the sister of my father, were in the house, and they were the ones that put us into the cellar, and they put a rug over the closed hinge door, and over that a table, and the two women sat in the kitchen as if they were conversing one with the other. But one of my cousins, we were all cousins in the cellar, one of my cousins was born only in August 1941, the first child in the ghetto. So he was only 2 years old. The cellar was dark, and he started to cry. And that, of course, would have meant the death of all of us. So immediately, the two women opened again the hinge door, and my aunt took her son with her pressed against her chest. They went up into the attic and hid behind some piece of furniture. The rest of us, 6 cousins, in the cellar. Again, they closed the door. Again, the same rug, the same table, and this time only my mother. And we hear the shouts, the curses of the Ukrainians. They, by the way, were given vodka before the action, before the purge that they were supposed to perform. So they were very merry, they were crying, they were singing, some of them also dancing. But of course, we knew that they were violent people. So we had to keep completely quiet. And we had to keep completely quiet during the whole day, from morning till nightfall. All the time, hearing the shouts outside, and after a while, the breaking of the Ukrainians into the house. We hear the nailed boots on the floor. We hear the movement of furniture, some being broken, looking for the children. And one of them, even my aunt, later on told us, actually had climbed the stairs to the attic. But luckily enough, like a miracle, the small child kept quiet the whole day. And they were probably anxious to move on, so they took a small glimpse, didn't detect them, and went away. And we standing there the whole day, Ukrainians coming in and getting out several times. And we in complete terror, what was going to happen to us. Standing, we 7 children, surprisingly getting into the cellar. Of course, we hadn't been prepared, we didn't empty ourselves before that. And some of us emptied ourselves during the stay in the cellar. The smell was terrible. The air was rare now because we were breathing, and the breathing opening for potatoes was not sufficient for 6, 7, 8-year-old children. If it had lasted for 1 or 2 hours more, I think we would have been recovered dead. At nightfall, the Ukrainians finally moved away, and our parents that had gone to work came back and opened the door, and we were still alive. Of course, terrible smell of us. They tried to wash us. There was no flowing water, by the way, in the houses. They had to bring in tubs of water, washed us, put us to sleep. And it was the end of the most terrible day I think I endured during my life. Just to finish maybe that little story, which was very determinant in my life maybe, but it was a little story, only one day. After that, until the liquidation of the ghetto in 1944, when the Russians were approaching and the Germans started to liquidate the ghettos and send the inmates to concentration camps in Germany and Poland, until those 3 days when the train transports went to the concentration camps, including my parents. I managed to escape with my aunt and some cousins just before the liquidation. So until that day that we escaped from the ghetto in July 1944, we were now enclosed in the houses. We were not allowed to talk loudly. We had to be very careful if there was some kind of rumor that someone strange came into the ghetto, just hide immediately in all corners possible in the house. And that went on then from November 1943 to July 1944, when we escaped from the ghetto, which gave us maybe some additional time to live. In any case, we were enclosed entirely. And if some of you have read the Diary of Anne Frank, it was, of course, she endured it for a long time. We endured it for the next 5 or 6 months, or 7 months. And after that, the escape and rescue, at least as far as I was concerned. My parents went to concentration camps. My father survived Dachau concentration camp. My mother did not survive.